I think it's finally about time. Maybe the world is finally almost out of this pandemic and everyone can be nice and happy. You know what? Let's just talk about my favorites from the year instead. Yeah. Yeah. We have been here before, but this year we're going to skip the good things section, and instead I'm going to make it all about me and just gush about the channel and you guys. And this way you guys can just skip the gushy part and get to the cool stuff. It was a great year. I had some of the most fun I've ever had making videos. I made some of the best videos I think I've ever made, and it was just a great time despite the, creative droughts and lack of videos sometimes, but that's okay. But I'm still not satisfied, which is why in the new year I am going to be working diligently to make even bigger and better videos, and probably not more of them, but better. I'm also hoping to connect with you guys more and make our little community a little more tight-knit, and just have you guys interact in videos maybe. I don't know. But obviously the big thing was hitting 1,000 subscribers. I know, kind of crazy, but really I'm thankful for you guys being here and watching, and yeah, thank you. This year I watched a lot of movies and TV, so much so I should have split this up into movies and TV, but if I did that, change is scary and people would not know how to react and probably send me death threats. So it's just gonna be a really long section and very messy. Film school does something to a man. It really does. I made a whole video on Daredevil, and that was absolutely my show of the year. So instead of talking about this night-stalking vigilante, let's talk about the White Batman. Except he's not. I'm talking about Moon Knight. I thought that was better. I think for me this was easily the best Disney Plus show so far, no question. It felt different, it felt warranted, and most importantly, it was just a really good story. If you don't know who Moon Knight is, he's kind of like Marvel Batman, but he has dissociative identity disorder, and he's a lot edgier. Oscar Isaac is the biggest reason this show worked so well. He delivered playing two completely different people absolutely beautifully. His performance of some scenes in the later episodes get me every single time, and the way he begins to very quickly switch back and forth is just plain out impressive. I also think it has some great action by MCU standards. It's not Daredevil level, but it's definitely well done, especially in the final episode with the switching back and forth. It's just simply cool as hell. I also think the effects and cinematography were the best out of the shows, except Loki. Loki's just plain gorgeous, but I think the only thing I can really fault for it is that it should have absolutely had more episodes in the season. The story definitely takes a hit because they smushed it into only 6 episodes. Even just giving it 8 would have been a lot better in my opinion, but it's not a terribly strong hit because this season was a lot of setup for Mark and Steven and focused on their characters, so it didn't absolutely need more. If you haven't watched it because you're kind of sick of the MCU, totally get it, but give it a shot. It was very disconnected from the main MCU stuff, and it's just a good watch. Also, Daredevil was in She-Hulk, and She-Hulk was fine, but he was perfect. I love him. He is a little man whore, and he was so good, and I love the way they did him. I think it was just perfect, and it was good. We are all pretty sick of superhero stuff, though. It's everywhere, and of course people can like or dislike it, but it's pretty universally agreed it is flooding the market right now, and that makes it very oversaturated and kind of redundant.
That was diabolical!
But despite that, The Boys has come in and completely shook off the competition and crafted a throne for itself right at the top. I hadn't watched any of this show before this year, but as season 3 was kicking off and I heard all of these great things, I just had to join in and see what the hype was all about. I blasted through the show and was simply blown away. I usually don't like the gory, gross media that uses it for humor and shock. I think it's kind of cheap, but The Boys found a wonderfully fine line in somehow being one of the most gory, vulgar, and nasty pieces of media I have bore witness to, yet not once feeling cheap or gimmicky. There's a lot of reasons for this: incredibly solid writing, great production value, and just overall finding a great line between being a serious story and a social commentary while still being hilarious, and while still recognizing how wild and gross it is. It's wild to see this balance and have it work so well. From top to bottom, this show is just fantastic. I adore the characters and progression between each season, and if you're willing to indulge yourself in the nastiness of it, please do. Only this show could have an orgy episode that genuinely has some of the best character moments in the whole series. Also, Jensen Ackles in season 3 has to be my favorite thing in the entire world and in the series, so It was pretty good. I have always been a more narrative story kind of guy. I love the long, thematic stories built on years of drama and character work. So, American comedy shows have never really been my thing. I mean, I love Seinfeld, but that's about it. Who doesn't love Seinfeld? So, it came as a surprise this year when I started Community and became absolutely infatuated with it. The style of writing and humor just struck straight to the core of my vast and empty little skull, constantly making me laugh and holler like a little baby man. I'm in love with this show. The absolutely atrocious and lovable cast are why it's so great. The writing is incredibly smart and hilarious, but it's these actors that make the lines and characters come to life so well. These people are just insane. They're weird and make no sense, but somehow this cast brings them so well and so consistently to the screen, it's impossible not to just love them. Whether it be the beautiful relationship between Troy and Abed, the fucking Riz god that is Jeff Winger, or the social commentary on all of these wildly different demographics of people and why they're all obnoxious, it's just full of life and hilarity. And while the characters overall do stay relatively the same, or just become more of themselves, and you do see this growth in everyone by the time they either leave the show or it ends. And I think the fact these people learn these same lessons over and over and over again, and it's always played through jokes and sanity, makes the eventual glimpses of actual change that much better. And I think a completely different type of rewarding than when it's all up in your face. A big reason for my love for this show is the way, obviously it's just funny, but there's layers to this funny. Not smart humor by any means, but definitely smart writing. You can watch an episode 2 or 3 times and find new threads throughout that connect and make it even funnier. One of my favorite examples of this is an episode mainly focused on Pierce dealing with his mother dying, of which throughout the entire episode you see Abed in the background develop this relationship with a pregnant woman and eventually just helping her give birth entirely in the background. There's no mention of this until I think the entire next season, and it holds no real relevance, but it's so funny. The show is fantastic at building these plot threads up and then giving a great payoff later in the episode or literal seasons later. It's just fantastic. I don't want to spoil anything because I just implore you guys to watch this show if you haven't. Season 4 is a bit of a drag due to a change in writers, but the original creators do come back and all is fixed. So don't give up if you don't really like Season 4, 5, and 6 are just as good. I'm hoping when the movie comes out, at, some point, I can try to apply my analytical glasses to this literal comedy show because I think it's too beautiful not to. Pretty confidently, definitely this is my favorite comedy. And yes, I know that's very white boy of me to say, and that's okay. See, I know this doesn't really count as like TV or movie, but like I wasn't just going to put this in its own section, so here we are. I may not strike you all as the sports type, but I have played soccer for a very long time, or at least did, and this was easily the best live TV sporting event I think I have ever witnessed. See, I never sit down and watch sports on TV, except when I do the American thing and watch the Super Bowl, but throughout the entirety of the World Cup, I was watching parts of games, keeping up, I was interested. But at the final, I sat there and I watched the entire thing because it was just such a good game. It had so much weight. I sat there absolutely, completely engulfed in that game. Anyway, football is, it's him. Also, I loved seeing the Blue Lock memes and stuff going around. I thought that was really funny. Anyway, I don't think I'll ever really talk about sports again on this channel. So, I'm gonna say something kind of insane. The Batman was fucking incredible. In my humble opinion, it is the best standalone live-action superhero movie ever. No contest. Yeah, Infinity War is fantastic, but it is great because of all the movies that came before it, because of those through lines. Batman Begins is it's mid in all due respect, and its 2 sequels pick up and make it way better. But this movie, it's something else. Part of me wants to say this should be the leading off point for the new DCEU, but I honestly don't want whatever they do to taint this masterpiece. Pattinson is just amazing. He makes a fantastic year 2 Batman, and anyone that disagrees does not get the entire point of this movie or Batman as a character. It's also one of the most beautiful movies of the year. It's just a stunning piece of visual media. But the sound design, acting, script, everything works together to make this a just wonderful movie. And also, it's got some of the fucking rawest live-action Batman moments ever, even with it being a more grounded take on the Caped Crusader. Also, I just want to mention Paul Dano's Riddler. I don't even feel like I need to say anything. You know why. He's just... yeah. Wow. I physically cannot wait to get more of this story. I thought I wasn't going to be able to include this in this year's video. I somehow went the entire year without watching it. And I did. I broke my own rule because I did technically watch this in the first week of January, but I don't know how you expect me not to talk about it while it's fresh on my mind. And if I put it on next year's list, well, it just wouldn't feel right. This movie destroyed me. It uplifted me. It made me feel like I took 4 tabs of LSD and decided to go to a carnival. The editing and visuals were fantastic. The gimmick and story of it all was just awesome, but most importantly, the core of the movie, the heart of it, the message. That. Wow. If you haven't seen the movie, I'll try not to spoil anything, but no, I am. Is it better to live some grandiose life where the whole world sees you and knows your name, but no one truly gets you? Or just the simple life, a life where your name is known only to those close to you, but when they hear your name, they think of countless small, beautiful parts of what make you you. People that truly love you and care for you. I'm sure that wasn't the main thing people took from this movie. I'm sure most took the message of broken family and love and rekindling and all of that. Of course, I did too. This family coming back together almost made me cry, but I don't know why. For me, it was that above message that I think stuck with me the most. A lot of people, myself included, dream of big, grandiose lives, and for the longest time when I was younger, all I wanted was, to be liked by everybody, to be, I don't want to say famous, but yeah. And I feel like a lot of kids dream like that. But I realized, growing older, the more people that know you, the less those connections really, matter. The whole world could know my name, but what does that mean if my best friend doesn't even know exactly how much I'd like this random birthday gift? It is very hypocritical to make this claim while writing a script for a YouTube video that the entire point of which is to be seen by as many people as possible, but I do hope you get my point. This for me is a hobby I just like doing, but what really matters is just the people around you. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, definitely got off topic, but the idea of just doing laundry and taxes with you definitely got me thinking. This is a movie I haven't seen many people actually talk about besides all the memes and funnies from it, and I think that's a shame. It's not some world-changing masterpiece, but I really enjoyed this movie. The style, the editing, the bombastic nature, it did a lot of things that worked for me. The characters are all so out there and memorable, and if you haven't, you just have to go watch this. It's slick and fast and just a treat. Also, I loved Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. Just thought I should mention them and their dynamic. Also, Hiroyuki Sanada, it's just gas, really, I think. I do not like James Cameron's 2009 film, Avatar. I thought it was just a fine story, which was the same as Pocahontas, and a CGI fuckfest and had no actual substance to it. This year, when its sequel, 13 Years in the Making, The Way of Water, came out, I was not excited. I didn't remember any of the characters' names. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't even want to give the theater my money. But I decided the trailer was alright looking, so fine. Why don't I go give it a shot? The next 3 hours of my life, I regretted everything I had said. Really, I did love this movie. Personally, I felt like the first one was very much a setup, and this one is the actual story starting to happen, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much more. Really, it's a good movie about family. It's a really pretty movie at that. And I am now selling the Avatar agenda. Also, by the way, his name is Jake Sully. Never forget that. So I can explain why I love this movie very quickly with exactly four scenes. Jake Sully's charge and comment toward the general after his son died. His wife's absolute wrecking of these random dudes and her grief. The way that was portrayed was fantastic, and also really sad to say it cool when she started murdering everybody. The younger brother's story with the whale thing and that whole dynamic, great. And the entirety of the older son's death was beautiful and sad, and that led into the ending message and all of that, of which I loved. Once again, we are now selling the Avatar agenda in this house, so I thought Knives Out was just a grand old time, a fun and actually very well written murder mystery. I was expecting something kind of similar with its sequel. That is not what I got, but in no way is that a bad thing. I loved how the first movie seemed to be an almost entirely different genre and style of film from the second one, yet held the same core purpose and themes. The twists and turns were wonderful, and I just love Daniel Craig in these movies. He really is a treat to watch. I don't have much else to say. It was just a solid movie. I thought I would throw it in here. Horror movies suck. 8 times out of 10. I think these movies have their own merit as entertainment and very funny. But those 2 times out of 10, there's nothing else like it. A movie that you walk out of feeling uneasy. The hairs on the back of your neck still straight up. Goosebumps lining your body. The phenomenon that we humans are addicted to such a primal sensation is strange to me, but I'm no better. And Smile, I think, was in that 20%. I was completely surprised by it too. I thought it was going to be a really goofy, really dumb movie and something to just laugh at. I went with a group of friends expecting that. That, however, is not what I got. Watching horror in a completely pitch black room with a huge surround sound system is definitely much better, and I don't know if the movie would have got me the same way as it did if I watched it in any other scenario, but I do want to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it absolutely would have. I've mentioned before, horror is not my strong suit, but that's because that feeling after stays with me for a long time, not because of the jump scares. Jump scares are one thing I'm actually pretty good at. They don't usually get me, and I can kind of brush it off, but something about the way this movie crafted them didn't feel cheap or hollow. The timing was always so perfect, and at the same time completely off, and it got me with each one. There's so many times you get build up to something and nothing happens, and then much later than you expect, boom, it happens. For a movie with such a strange and kind of shallow concept, it works. And I have to give credit to all these actors. They pull off that empty existential smile flawlessly, and it's one of the main reasons this movie works so well. So if you haven't seen it, this is your chance to go do it. My favorite part of it, though, is the fact that the movie ends with absolutely no victory. After tricking you into thinking it was over with a happy, nice wrap-up. I love my beat the odds no matter what story, obviously, but in horror, I do prefer to walk out feeling like absolute shit, because that's really how you make that fear sink in. One of the only horror movies that scares me endlessly where they beat the odds is The Shining. But basically all the other ones that truly terrify me, they lose in the end. Midsommar, Hereditary, things like that. I think that subversion after she thinks is over is why it stuck with me when I walked out. Plus the demon thing, that was just nasty. So here's a list of some of the movies I watched for the first time this year. I enjoyed them all, but it didn't feel like I could really talk about them. Plus, you've definitely all already seen them, as they're old, most of them. I guarantee you have seen them already. But I'm adding myself because that is the entire point of this, which is to take advantage of my degrading kink. So here we go. I watched 12 Angry Men for the first time, the 1956. I don't have a number. I pulled that out of nowhere. Classic film. I thought it was really good. You know, if you haven't watched it, you should watch it. It's pretty good. I watched Psycho, another oldie, classic black and white movie that everybody has seen, except for me, apparently. It was good. I watched La Haine, which is a French film. It's not that old. It's just in black and white. It's a very good movie. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely go do that. I don't think this is one that most people have seen, but I wanted to mention it anyway without its own section, just because I don't feel like it couldn't bring much to the table. So I just want to mention it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The Truman Show, a movie everybody and their mother has seen, and I have somehow gone 19 years without watching. It was good. I love Jim Carrey. Moonlight, a very, very, very good movie from 2016, I believe. You should definitely go watch that. That's another pretty popular one for all the movie buffs when they're like, Moonlight. I watched a bunch of documentaries just for fun. Got into a little bit of a hole. But this one was definitely my favorite. It's called Time. And if you haven't watched it, you should definitely go watch it. It is a very, very good story, and it's a very well crafted documentary. And yeah. So these next movies are me entering my girl boss era, because I'm like that. I watched Mean Girls for the first time because I somehow never saw that. Clueless, never saw that. And 10 Things I Hate About You, which I think was my favorite out of them. I know all the Mean Girl standees are gonna kill me for not saying that was my favorite, but Heath Ledger, really good movie. Last but not least, not at all, is my movie of the year. No contest. Well, kind of no contest. Of which I won't be talking about, because I already have a whole script written and will be making this its own video. So instead, this is not the last one, because I'm going to talk about a different movie.
I lied.
I've gained such an appreciation for movies this past year, as I made it a goal to really watch them expand my taste. And this movie coming out in the latter half of the year was an almost perfect little wrap-up to give me. It takes my favorite part of film, as I'm sure you all know, because I always talk about it, cinematography, and just gave my eyes a feast. It was just simply gorgeous. Like, just look at some of this. But that's not why I love the movie. It's the story. This film is something I really think you should just watch. I knew nothing going in, and I loved it that way. It starts as a very simple, slightly dry and crass comedy, and quickly evolves into a beautiful story of purpose and self. So if you haven't, go ahead and skip to the next section, or just go watch right now and come back. That message I spoke on earlier from Everything Everywhere All at Once comes back in a different way in this movie. I think it's expressed differently, obviously, but I think it's way more powerful here, honestly. The idea of just being kind and having few friends in this small town, or throwing all your friends out to live forever through your art, through your music. I think the back and forth of this is just fantastic, but better than that is just the idea of being kind, of living how you wish to, dying how you wish to. The way these characters choose to live and change goes right along with that mindset. And when everything comes to a head towards the end of the film, and our main character burns this house down for a damn good reason, it's because he's tired of being a pushover, tired of being stepped on. This film that started as such a light, offbeat comedy and divulged into one of the most gut-wrenching and moving stories possible. That's why I love this movie. Do I need a pre-game talk show for this section? I mean, I feel like y'all know it's anime. This show, on the surface, seems so normal. If anything, it just seems weird and ecchi. I have no idea why, though. Except it isn't, for the most part. Everything about this show emanates this one simple thing, and it's even used within the show. It's beautiful. It's animated just fantastically. From top to bottom, this show just makes me happy with how it looks for a lot of reasons, and has just beautiful character animation. And a show with an extreme lack of anything really flashy or, visual that it needs to do, because obviously it's just slice of life. It still creates jaw-dropping scenes of animation through its consistently gorgeous characters and the way it brings the emotions of these people to life. It takes an entirely different level of talent to create this feeling, and it's just spectacular. Now, I don't usually do the whole best girl thing, because that shit's cringe, but Marin is just that. If you haven't seen the show, you probably think it's just another romance with a weird cosplay gimmick, and while that may be true, I think it has a lot more to offer than just that. The chemistry between our main two characters is palpable. Something that I noticed is that the wacky situations they get themselves in feel a lot more with the times. Like, a lot of the time when you watch a romance, yeah, it's great, but these characters all have such a stick up their ass about romanticism, and I get that's because they're older shows, different time, whatever. But in this, they do stupid things teenagers would do, like, rent a love hotel. And they are much more open about joking with their lustfulness. Plus, the jokes are just hilarious. And the cute moments are adorable. This show has a lot to say about dreams, passion, time, and even just personal growth. While the romance is done so perfectly, feels natural, you're rooting for them like crazy, it honestly feels like it comes second at times. Because really our main Gojo has a lot of character moments and introspection, and Marin has her quirks and amazing moments too. And I just love seeing them work through them and opening up to each other. And I think the show really has a lot to say about a dream and passion, and especially sharing that passion with someone else. And how beautiful of a thing that can be, no matter how niche or silly it may seem. Sharing your all with someone really is the best feeling. If you haven't watched this show, I'm begging you to please go give it a shot. Plus, these two are just adorable together, and, this. I feel like I said this exact same thing last year. I did. But I don't want to say much about Attack on Titan until it's over. I really enjoyed Part 2, but you guys are going to have to wait till the final season, Part 3, Reroute A, is over to get my real thoughts about it. I don't know what you want from me. The Entertainment District was so good, I nearly gave up on anime as a whole because I knew One Piece would never get this treatment. It did. We talked about Mugen Train last year and how much I adored that, so coming right off the back of that, we get the Tengen arc, and it was great. He's got to be one of my favorite characters. It kind of goes without saying that this season rocked. The insane animation that made Twitter explode once again. The things I loved most were all these just pure adrenaline, hype moments like Zenitsu being Raw, all the time. Tengen and Tanjiro, Nezuko getting buff. But also this backstory, this got me really good. Sibling stuff always gets me for some reason, and this was no different, and I thought it was all just great. I cannot wait for the next season this year. Also, just to mention, I did read the manga this year, from the end of this arc to the end of the manga, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't feel any need to talk about it in the manga section later, so I'm just going to mention here because I would prefer to kind of just talk about the anime as it releases. So anyway, I very often say I never cry, but and right, this is no different. The second episode of the Ranking of Kings made me tear up, and somehow I held it back, but it was just fantastic. And it also almost happened at multiple other occasions. This series has something magical. The way it came in and established this incredibly stylized and incredible world filled with memorable, great characters, twists and turns with such a huge emotional core holding it all up. Baji consistently made me feel emotions I should not be feeling as a stone-cold rock of a man because I was rooting for him so hard. He is the greatest underdog of the century, and Kage, he was no better. The show was just full of great emotional plot lines, and considering it was all set up, makes me even more excited for the future. It's a great mix of feel-good, sorrow, and just pure hype action. I quickly want to mention Cyberpunk Edge Runners because I adored it. There's a lot to be said here, but I feel like if you watched it, you get it, and I kind of want to just let it speak for itself, And I think it's something so incredibly powerful. How it was all in only 10 episodes and about a game everyone gave up on over 2 years ago, yet was still one of the best shows that came out this year by a good margin. Spy X Family feels good in my bones. I really enjoy it. It's fun. It's cute. It's just kind of nice. Also, I love the second opening. But I have to be honest, I haven't finished the second core yet. I kind of just stopped. I still on the list though. I made a whole video about Mob, so obviously I won't talk about it here. But obviously Season 3 was one of my absolute top from the year, so go watch that video if you want to know what I think. Kaguya-sama Season 3 came out this year, and this show is just a gem. It's the absolute pinnacle of rom-com. It's one of the funniest shows I've seen while still being one of the sweetest and heart-wrenching. It's so good and just so funny. Chainsaw Man is the only other thing other than One Piece that has 2 sections in this video. So I feel like that shows how much I want this show in my veins. I know this show got a lot of flack from some people for some reason because they don't have taste. But for me personally, I adored it this first season. It was fantastic. I loved the film approach that deviated from the manga in terms of style, but also gave it its own identity and really, I think, improved it in this different format. It doesn't need to be the same. If you want the manga, just go read the manga. There's even a colored manga. Go read that. This is an entirely different thing. It's an anime, and obviously I don't want it to steer away from the plot, but I love the stylistic choices. It was fantastic. And the animation was gorgeous. It has one of the best openings of the year, if not the best, personally. It's a giant dick joke, and I loved it all around. It was fantastic. It was just great. And I loved the endings. And I think it says a lot that this season really covered the prologue setup part before Chainsaw Man even really becomes Chainsaw Man in terms of as a series. And it was still that good. Just look at it. It's fantastic. And if you haven't watched it, you definitely should, especially if you're a fan of the manga and are willing to accept the fact that it has a different and, in my opinion, just as valid and fantastically executed style. So the One Piece anime this year was just fantastic. The fact this is a weekly series blows my mind consistently, and I'm just in love with it. I'm so glad we're eating this good. And this year, we might possibly get the best One Piece episode ever. At least my personal favorite, I can tell. But I will stay away from that because that's for later me to discover. Anyway, this year had some of the best episodes we've ever had. Easy. It had the crew versus Kaido. These big fellas, loved them. It had the Straw Hats starting off their one-on-one fights. Some great moments from like Robin, Frankie, Jinbei. Gas, all gas. Kaido versus Luffy has been nothing short of just fantastic. Just fantastic. But obviously the best, the pinnacle of One Piece was episode 10-15. You all knew I was going to say that. It's just a perfect episode. It's fantastically directed, beautiful, top to bottom, fantastic. And I love this series. I love it so much. And I just love it. And I cannot wait for this upcoming year. You can tell that they are just as excited as we are. Alright, real quick, I want to talk about One Piece Red because I never did that. I wrote some notes after watching it in like the thought process I was having throughout the whole movie. So I'm gonna read it out, reenact, because there's a lot of all caps here. And I think you'll get the point of how much or at least what I thought about this movie. The singing at the beginning, very good. Clearly I enjoyed Yuta and her stuff. Right from the get-go, I said this bitch either dead or evil, no in between. Yuta kind of bad. I'm down horrendous. I'm sorry. Baby Luffy, OMG, I love him. He's so cute. He's adorable. I mean, and then I said a lot of movie happens. Sunny in all caps because Baby Sunny was cute. Katakuri, fuck, daddy. Why they all so hot? Shanks, Katakuri, Yasop and Usopp. Oh my god, Shanks. Oh my god, Gear 5th. Oh my god, Shanks. Oh my god, Yuta. And that's all. That is all. Thank you for coming. Also want to mention I did make the JJK video, JJK 0. I loved that movie a lot, and I had a video on it, and so that's here. Also, I went in and I wrote this entire anime section, and I realized I didn't talk about part 6. And I love part 6. I loved it when I read the manga. I think the anime was fantastic. It was good. JoJo's peak. It just is. And the ending to part 6 and the ending of this saga of JoJo is fantastic and very bittersweet, and I love it. And I just wanted to mention that. And I love Anasui. I love Anasui. That's yeah. My manga was honestly kind of slacking this year. I didn't really start any new series, really. So I guess we're just going to go over what happened in my ongoing concurrent series because that's fun. And, yeah. Video coming soon. Obviously, I've talked about One Piece twice already, and that's because this really was the year for One Piece, and the manga was obviously the best part of that. This year was fantastic. It would take me forever to go through all of the different plot points and everything that I loved, so we're just going to mention a couple things. The biggest one being, I think pretty obviously, was Gear 5. And this was very special for me because this was the first time I have been present to witness a crazy event like that. Like, before I even started watching One Piece, Gear 4 had already happened. I knew about it. I don't think I knew about Snake Man, but I knew about all of these things, and there was no crazy reveals like that. Like, I started reading and caught up during the beginning of Wano, so I'd never really been here for something like that. So it was awesome to go on Twitter on like a Wednesday and see a bunch of tweets of like, everybody get off Twitter, the spoilers are out, you're not going to want to get spoiled on this. And then I just got off Twitter and 2 days later read the scan chapter and oh my god. It's fantastic. The manga's been just so great this year. The ending of Wano was awesome, amazing. I loved it. And post Wano has been nothing but heat. After that break, that little break Oda took, and he decided to really start the story of One Piece, in his words, it's been untouchable, as just fantastic from top to bottom. Egghead Island has been fantastic. It's already ramping up to be one of the best, I think. I think it's already nearing its climax. A pretty short arc, kind of like Zoe and Sabaody, and I love that as like the first, kind of as the starting off point for this final saga. And it's just, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what happens this year. Now, JJK, it's been amazing. This year really has just pushed it up for me only. Like, it's just fantastic. The manga's been fantastic. The culling games, man. Like, first off, the Yuta stuff. We all know how much I love Yuta. You got some great moments. Some of the best choreography in the series so far already. Like, it's been amazing. I loved his stuff. Then we got a bunch of Hakari stuff. That was fantastic. I loved getting to know him and his powers and Kashimo and all that is awesome. And then, of course, Maki. Her chapters were fantastic. Like, really fleshing out her character a little more than it already has been. Great stuff. The fights have just been top to bottom fantastic. But the Choso Kenjaku stuff has just been awesome. Like, Yuki came in and really just blew it out of the park, honestly. I hate to make a comparison, but I'm going to. I feel like the way they handled Yuki and her battle with Kenjaku and then her probably death, I think is just an even better way of doing what Stars and Stripes did last year. Although I did love Stars and Stripes. But this was just done even better. The way she just came in, showed off, created an opportunity for a bunch of like thematic stuff and revealing things about Kenjaku, all this stuff. And the biggest thing for me, really pushing Choso even more. And I loved his character already. We know this from last year, from my full video I had on it. But it's just awesome. I love his character. And what that fight kind of did for him just pushed him even further into how much I love him. I loved the angel stuff that we got a little bit actually last year. The angel stuff and the getting back with Yuji and Megami, that was great. The chapters that have come out since then I can't talk about, but yeah, it's I've been really into this final arc in My Hero. There's been parts throughout the last good stretch of the story where it has been a little hard. And that's mainly because the fan base is just awful. So I actively avoid social media with that fan base, so I don't get to see much discourse. I do. But I know it's been mixed. I, however, have such a strange soft spot for this story, and I think it gets way more shit than it deserves. I think the final arc has been straight heat, and I will stand by that. Hori has been cooking, and next year is probably going to be the last time I get to mention the manga. I said that last year, but this time it seems a lot more likely. But I really have loved this year. So I'm kind of going to do what I've done the past, 2 years, and just really talk about why and what I loved from this year. The first thing was Todoroki versus Toya. That was just fantastic. I love Todoroki's character so much, and that whole plot line, of course, everybody does. And I love Dabi's character, and just seeing this kind of come to a head, except not really, was great. And the artwork, as always, is just fucking amazing. I loved Endeavor so much, and Hawks and all of that stuff. Great. Against All for One and all that. It's just great stuff, man. I will say the way that the spinner stuff was handled was a little weird for the majority of it. And I don't know how much I like that. But I think it did its job, though. But I think the ending part where he ran into the hospital, all of that section, getting to Kurogiri, all that was just phenomenal. And of course, the Bakugo stuff, just fantastic. The chapter where Bakugo RIPs for now is one of the best chapters, I think, in the whole series. It's just fantastic for him as a character. Great, just amazing. And as much as I do think it would have been cool thematically and for the story if he did die there, I 100% get why that couldn't happen. I get why that couldn't happen, and I wish there was a little more pre-stuff that built into Edge Shot being able to do that, but also, like, I don't really care, honestly. It's gas. I don't think it's worth all the hassle and the bickering, you know? I think it's good, and if it's good, just, you know, enjoy it. I don't know. But, you know, obviously the Deku getting there, heat, fire, overdrive, transmission shift, all of that stuff, fantastic. Probably not supposed to mention this because it came out this year, but the later half with Shigaraki getting out, and yeah, it's good. It's good. It's been gas. But I will end this off by saying I hope Horikoshi gets some rest, because this year has had a lot of really short chapters, because you can tell he's pushing himself, and I just, you know, I don't want my man to, you know, hurt himself, because I love the story, and yeah. Next up is Peak Saw Man Part 2. I have enjoyed it so much. It's only been coming out for, what, half a year? But it's just incredible already. I love the chemistry between Denji and Asa as characters. Obviously romantically now as well, but for a long time not even like with that. The Asa and Yoru stuff I've loved. Just been really good so far. Well, at first I did think the change in POV from Denji to Asa was neat, but just kind of like a, you know, haha thing. I did start to miss following Denji around, but now that we're a little more into it, I'm all in. I really love the fact that it's focused on Asa, and we get to find out where Denji's at and all this stuff through her to kind of build our tension and, you know, build some drama to, you know, not just have that information right off the bat again. But it's just been really solid, up and down, fantastic, and I love Chainsaw Man a lot. Well, this was the only new manga that I really read this year. It's called A Girl on the Shore. It is a 1-volume, pretty thick volume length story by the creator of Oyasumi Punpun, and we all know how I feel about that. And honestly, this manga was really heavy, and I really enjoyed it. To me, it's a lot about finding purpose and growing up and love where you think there isn't any, or vice versa. And I really implore you guys to read it if you have the chance, and if you are comfortable, because it is a little heavy, not in terms of like trauma like Punpun, but in terms of just themes and kind of like a lot of the content matter. But it's just a fantastic little 1-volume manga. I love the exploration of sex and survivor's guilt, honestly, two very different things, but also not really, that come together in this really sweet and also depressing story about these adolescents, and it's a really good story. So, in complete opposite fashion to the manga section, I actually played video games this year. I'm proud of myself. Go me. This section isn't going to be like two things. So I didn't finish Elden Ring, as I didn't have the hours to devote myself to this monster, but hopefully I will finish it eventually, maybe. But I did want to throw it in here. From what I did play, it was a fantastic game. I loved the combat. I loved the world. Like, I loved it, from what I did get to play. And I knew I had to throw it in here because I did play it, and all the Elden Ring standees are going to get mad at me if I didn't. So, yeah. I don't think I've ever actually mentioned this. Wait, let me go check. No, I haven't. But Kingdom Hearts was a huge part of my childhood. Okay, I get it. I get it. I know. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 2 was like my game when I was just a wee small boy. And I loved Kingdom Hearts 3 when it came out. But I never actually played the original. I knew it happened, obviously. But this year, I decided to actually play it myself. I'm not finished, as this was a game I just wanted to pick up every once in a while, so it's going slow, but I adore it. There's definitely a lot of nostalgia taking place, but I do think these games have a kind of charm and magic very few others can tap into. And no pun intended, the game is full of heart from top to bottom. It makes it so when you sit down for a session, you just get lost in the sense of wonder and you get really attached. I'm hoping by next year I will have finished this playthrough and my replay of the second game, so I can maybe give this series the full video that it deserves. The story of this game is something really magical. Finding your own path, how it's never too late to be better, to improve. The story of a father and a son and their relationship. It is a fantastic game. And this is why I love video games. I love this form of long-form storytelling that really just immerses you into these characters and makes you just absolutely love them. And while I don't have much to say for myself here, it really hit me hard, and I think it was just a fantastic game. Great mechanics, of course, and I love the way they handled and kind of twisted while still being faithful to the Norse mythos. And words can't even describe how much I love Kratos and his growth. And I also love Atreus. I don't see enough love for him or Mimir, honestly. But just fantastic game. I played God of War 3 this year, having never played any of the original God of War games before. This was the only one that was on PSN, so I got it, and I played most of it. I haven't finished it, but it's just a fun hack and slash. I know the story from the original ones, of course. I've watched a bunch of videos on them, but I finally got to play one for myself, and it is a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Let me tell you a story. Christmas 2020. The PS5 had just been released, and I had plans to get one. For Christmas this year, I decided to split the cost in order to get one of these new behemoth of a machine. I had everything set out. I asked a family member of mine for Christmas to gift me the new Miles Morales game as my first game that I would play, because I love Spider-Man PS4, so I just really wanted to play Miles. But obviously, if you all remember the tragedy that was the PS5 release, I did not get one. And I did not get one the year after. I obtained Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS5 in December of 2020. And so that game sat in my game cabinet, still in the wrapping, for 2 years. And this year, finally, it became mine. The glorious, the infamous, the powerful PlayStation 5 was now mine. And finally, on that fateful day, I got this godsend of a machine. I opened the cling-wrapped Miles Morales, and I played it, and I beat it in a whopping day and a half. It was fantastic and so cathartic. Now, I do think the writing was definitely lacking compared to the original game, but the story as a whole was just as amazing, if not better in some ways. I loved that Miles got his own game and was able to be fleshed out and separated from Peter, and overall was just a fantastic game. I loved the combat way more than the original. Somehow the swinging felt better. Just everything about this game was fantastic. It was very cathartic for me. I love this game. Okay, so to wrap up the gaming section, I want to talk about Civ 6, Civilization 6. It's one of those like overhead tabletop, like Sim City kind of games. It's really good. I never play those kind of like strategy games. As you can probably tell, I'm more of a story, single player game kind of guy. But my friend recommended it to me, and I played it. I gave it a shot, and the first day I had it, I played it for about 7 or 8 hours straight, which I never do, even in games I love. I never sit there and play for that long. So safe to say it's a little addicting. But it's just a good, if you're into those strategy games, the war games kind of thing, definitely give it a shot. It's very, very good. It's very in depth, so it's a lot. That learning curve was about 3 hours of the 8, but it's really fun. You guys should give it a shot. I doubt I'll ever play another game like this, but this one got a thumbs up from me. I want to talk about music. I don't know how still. It's 3 years in a row. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't get why it's so hard. I just want to talk about the beeps and boops. Okay, well, we're going to start off with my album of the year, Gemini Rights by old Steve Lacy. Fire. My favorite songs from the album, probably Mercury, Sunshine, and Static. But the whole album is gas. Like, there's not a mid-song on that album. So, next, we're going to talk about my boy, Matt Watson, as he came out with his first full-length album this year. See You There. Gas. Just gas. Go give it a listen. He also came out with an extension pack for his first EP. I discovered Kendrick this year for the first time. Not like actually, like I knew who he was, but I started listening to his music. Gosh, but I'm sure you all know that, so I don't know what I'm... there's this small band called The Collection that I discovered this year. They're very good. It's like indie rock, I think. It's pretty good if you like that kind of like indie rock, pop, that genre. Go give them a listen. They're pretty good. I'd recommend Sorry Baby and Rose-Colored Glasses. I guess that sounds good. Next up, I discovered breakcore this year, as I'm sure you could tell. It's in some of my other videos and in this video. Very good. The main one I love the most is Sewer Slut, I think is how you say that. Very good artist. And Strawberry Milk, also they're very good. Tokyo Pill, some other like breakcore, that kind of like genre. All very good. You should give them a shot. Give them a listen. Next, Lovejoy. I love Lovejoy, the band. You should give them a listen. It's like indie rock. Indie rock. I don't know what the fuck that was. It's good. Model Buses, best song they have. Just is. So, last but not least, I went to my first concert this year, and also the last recommendation and the best recommendation for this section was this concert by them. It's Sammy Ray and the Friends. Bless up. Their music is godly, and you have to give it a listen. Recommend Creos Lo Cientos, Flesh and Bone, Kick It To Me. 3 best, I'd say, probably, maybe. I don't know. All their songs are gas. Vocalist Sammy Ray, beautiful voice, unlike anything I've ever heard in my entire life. And you have to go give them a listen. But the concert was really fun. I've never been to one of those, and now I enjoy going to those. But I also feel like every other concert has been ruined for me because just the energy that they had on stage, just the showmanship. I went with a friend who has been to a lot of concerts, and she said that set a standard, a high standard that I will not get at a lot of other concerts. So anyway, yeah. Just give them a listen. If you're in the UK, I think they're on tour right now. I don't know. Anyway. In the middle part of the year, I got really deep into some very strange rabbit holes, like Alice in Wonderland deep, and I'm not proud of some of them. So I will not be mentioning those. So here's the normal ones. Am I allowed to mention him again? Can I? Please, just for 1 second, please. If you have heard of Everywhere at the End of Time and taken the chance to listen to it, you know just as well as I do how powerful of a piece of art it is. I won't say anything about it though, because I want you to go watch this video by I Am Muffin, a wonderful member in our community. It's a great video where he explores and goes through the entirety of the album, and if you can spare the time, definitely give it a watch. And also listen to Everywhere at the End of Time. It's very, very sad and good. This video by Defunct Land was not a video. It was not a video essay. This was a whole documentary. He's made some other fantastic videos like the Fast Pass video and the Garfield ride. But this is easily my favorite. It is on such a niche and weird topic, and it gets you completely enveloped in this mystery and concludes with a fantastic message to wrap it all up. Please go watch it. The production quality on this, the editing, everything about it is just phenomenal. Aleeks created an absolutely fantastic video on Chainsaw Man and Tatsuki Fujimoto, and it is just a great inspiration. I'm always trying at least little by little to improve my style and editing, and that's most of the reason I watched anime YouTube videos now. Anyway, just go check out some of his stuff. It's great, really well put together, all that. Employment. I developed a bad obsession with his videos this year. This fucking Coke video was one of the greatest video essays I have ever seen. And then I watched his McDonald's one, and it just blew the Coke one out of the water. It is fantastic. His video on American Psychos, the art of the choke, all that's just great. Great stuff. Now, I don't want to admit how many 3-hour videos I put on and watched in single sittings by Wendigoon, but there was a lot. There was also a 9-hour video I put on and watched. Not in one sitting, though. I'm not that crazy, but I love his stuff. Good stuff. This is just a wonderfully crafted, incredible love letter to a fantastic series. Whether you've seen Dragon Ball or not, you have to go watch this short film of another timeline that was created by this clearly incredibly talented and passionate team. Some of the best animation I've seen, and also just a lot of really cool concepts and ideas that deviate from the source in a lot of great ways. And it's a pretty short watch. Go give it a shot. Internet historian, all I really gotta say is man in hole. I do this every year. I mention something about Markiplier, but I can't not mention In Space with Markiplier. It really just pushed the bounds of what YouTube creators are capable of, and it's just a really, really well put together, high quality, high production value series of videos, of a film. Honestly, more than that, it's a lot. You should absolutely go give it a try if you wanted to pick your own adventure kind of thing. And it's just really well put together, and a culmination of a lot of what he has been building over the years, and it's good stuff. Creator Clash was one of the greatest YouTube events I have ever bore witness to, and I have been a part of this community since I was probably about 6. So my friends and I put on a little watch party, and it was just a great night. The spectacle was fantastic. I loved all of the fights. We had so much we were rooting for, people, whatever. Most of the time, the people we were rooting for lost, but that's okay. You all know how much I love Super Mega. Their fights were the best of the night for 2 entirely opposite reasons, and it was a great time. And if you guys didn't watch last year, you absolutely should watch this year's. The tickets are already out. I'm actually going this year, and I'm very excited. But it's just, yeah, I've loved boxing for a very long time, just as a sport, and so getting this event where I had a lot of emotional investment in some of these people made it just all the more better, and it was a great time. It was a fantastic time. So 2022 was difficult, but it wasn't bad. Not even close. It was a year full of life changes for me, and while that may be very scary at times and other times sad, I think I can say I'm better for it, and it was definitely worth it. That is in no part thanks to all of this media I have consumed and the disgusting takes I have to see on a regular basis. Media literacy is not as common as you might think. But seriously, thank you all so much for watching and listening to me ramble all the time. Hopefully next year can come even slightly close to this year. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Toodles! Fucking damn.